Cecilia smirked at me when I announced my resignation, but I simply met her gaze in silence. Our discussion had revolved around the company's decision to cut labor costs, with a particular distaste for those they believed were taking advantage of overtime pay. Samuel, too, seemed eager to slash expenses. A week later, my phone wouldn't stop ringing with calls from the company. When I finally answered, the president's sharp voice came through. "Who are you?" I let out a dry chuckle at the absurdity of the question. Calmly, I introduced myself, Alander Baker, 55 years old, with 33 years of unwavering dedication since my college days. I reminded him of the company's role in providing administrative services, managing clerical work, and specializing in tax-related matters. I personally oversaw 42 clients, a task that had become overwhelming despite some part-time assistance. Even under the weight of this workload, I refused to show weakness. These clients had been with us for years, and their trust kept me pushing forward. But today, as I sat in front of my computer, Samuel and Cecilia's constant harassment gnawed at my mind. Samuel, 6 years younger than me and newly appointed as head of the tax department, had changed drastically after his promotion 3 months ago. The once courteous colleague had become condescending, nitpicking every detail. Even when I countered his claims, he remained indifferent, brushing me off with instructions to check the manual and cautioning me against unnecessary actions. Cecilia, his assistant, followed his lead, ridiculing my efficiency and mocking my low-level position. What she didn't know was that I had once declined the department head position myself, a fact that neither of them were aware of. I had no interest in power struggles, only in doing my job, but that didn't stop their relentless harassment. They accused me of working excessive overtime, calling it a waste. Samuel claimed my hours were dragging down the department's performance, and Cecilia sighed dramatically in agreement. The truth? My overtime stemmed from Samuel dumping a month's worth of client files onto my desk at the last minute, expecting me to complete them before the month's end. After work, my stomach sank as I looked at the mountain of paperwork before me. Wait, all of these have deadlines this month? I muttered in disbelief. Before I could even process it, Samuel was already gathering his things, indifferent to my concerns. "I'm heading out, good luck," he said casually before walking out. Cecilia trailed behind, tossing a mocking laugh over her shoulder. I exhaled heavily, glancing at the files again. Some of them were supposed to be Cecilia's responsibility. That's when it hit me, the harassment wasn't random. They wanted me gone. With my years of experience, many in the tax department still sought my guidance over Samuel's. His cold demeanor and lack of leadership had made him widely disliked, except by Cecilia, who conveniently stuck close to him, likely aware of his preference for younger female employees. Their shallow schemes sent a chill down my spine. Cecilia's hostility wasn't just personal, she was trying to secure her place under Samuel's favor, knowing he evaluated the department's performance. Regardless, I had to finish my work. Declaring overtime would only bring more complaints from Samuel and Cecilia, leaving me resigned to completing the extra hours unpaid. Then, out of the blue, I was summoned to the president's office. Since the previous president had fallen ill, his son had taken over, but he barely knew the company. As I entered, I noticed Samuel and Cecilia sporting smug expressions. Then came the announcement. "Alandra, we'll need you to resign by the end of the month." The words hit me like a freight train. I asked for clarification, only to learn that Samuel and Cecilia had accused me of abusing overtime. They pointed out that while others logged around 15 hours, I had over 80. The president, oblivious to the truth, seemed impressed by their supposed efficiency. The irony stung. My overtime was a direct result of handling their work, but if I exposed Samuel's tactics, it would only be twisted to make me look incompetent. I calmly explained that I never inflated my hours, I simply struggled to finish the unrealistic workload dumped on me. The president, clearly unsure, sighed and admitted there was no proof to support my case, yet, he insisted that someone working at such a slow pace couldn't remain. His mind was made up. I agreed to resign at the end of the month. As I left the office, I caught Samuel and Cecilia exchanging victorious smirks. Cecilia even threw in a sarcastic, "Thanks for quitting." I met her with a cold stare but said nothing. With my departure set, I focused on ensuring a proper handover. I prepared documents for all my clients, arranged farewell meetings where possible, and, unable to meet with the president directly, left letters informing them of my successor. 1 week after my resignation, I was enjoying a peaceful afternoon when my phone rang. Seeing my old company's number, I hesitated. I had already completed the social insurance procedures. What did they want? The calls didn't stop. Even Samuel and Cecilia were desperately trying to reach me. Annoyed, I finally answered. The president's frantic voice came through. Who exactly are you? I scoffed. Just an unemployed woman who resigned. Nothing more. His voice was filled with urgency as he explained that since my departure, 52 clients had called to cancel their contracts. He pleaded for me to return, his previous indifference now replaced with sheer panic. Curious, I made my way back to the company. When I arrived, Samuel and Cecilia were waiting, their faces pale, dark circles underlining their exhausted eyes. I raised an eyebrow. What's going on? Samuel glared at me, his voice tight with frustration. Since you left, clients have been pulling out, both old and new ones we were about to onboard. What did you do? Cecilia, looking equally distraught, accused me of sabotage, unable to believe that clients would willingly sever ties. Their worn-out appearances told me everything I needed to know. I hadn't done anything to manipulate the clients. But I had a pretty good idea why this was happening. Samuel, however, wasn't convinced. You did something, he accused. And for the first time in a long while, I allowed myself a small, knowing smile. Samuel was furious, insisting that I follow him to the president's office immediately. His grip was firm as he practically dragged me there. As we entered, the president looked straight at me, his expression serious. Samuel spoke first, his voice laced with authority. President, I brought her. Cecilia, eager to align with him, hurried to his side. Ignoring their accusatory tone, the president turned to me. Why did the transaction stop so suddenly after you left? I took a slow breath before answering. The truth is, our clients don't need this company to handle their taxes. There are firms that offer the same services at a lower cost. They stayed with us because of me. Samuel scoffed. You really think you're that important? Cecilia chimed in with a mocking laugh, questioning whether I truly believed I was the reason for the company's success. Unfazed, I explained my approach, how I provided personalized tax-saving strategies that made a real difference for our clients. Samuel dismissed it as inefficient, arguing that strictly following the manual was the only way to maintain order. The president let out a deep sigh. Actually, he started, signaling something significant. I received a call from my father, the former president. He told me that several clients who halted transactions reached out to him personally, asking if we could bring you back. I blinked in surprise. I never expected clients to go that far for me. My father also made something clear, the president continued. The tax department thrived because of your contributions. Not only did you handle your clients exceptionally, but you also assisted your colleagues. Even Samuel couldn't match your level of expertise. A look of regret crossed his face. Cecilia, standing rigidly beside Samuel, seemed stunned, perhaps realizing that I could have been her superior. The president then did something unexpected. I owe you an apology, he said sincerely. We shouldn't have forced you to resign. Would you consider coming back? I appreciated the offer, but hesitation held me back. Before I could respond, Samuel's frustration boiled over. Why her? He snapped. I worked just as hard, harder even. Cecilia nodded quickly. Samuel has been a great leader. It doesn't make sense to bring her back over him. The president's face darkened. Actually, we've been receiving complaints from the tax department since she left. His sharp gaze landed on Samuel and Cecilia. It turns out you two have been dumping your work on others. Samuel stiffened. The president continued, revealing that Samuel had been offloading client declaration forms onto subordinates, including Cecilia's workload for multiple clients. How ironic, the president remarked. You accused her of wasting company time, yet you were the one avoiding work. A cold sweat broke out on Samuel's forehead. Then came another blow. We also received an anonymous tip about your personal relationship. Cecilia's face went pale. Samuel tried to defend himself. I was just mentoring her. The president cut him off, then explained these. He placed a stack of receipts on the table, expense claims for expensive dinners, all filed under company funds. Samuel's mouth opened, but no words came out. The president's tone turned decisive. Neglecting responsibilities, fraudulent expense claims, and inappropriate behavior in the workplace, especially while being married, effective immediately. You're both fired. Samuel and Cecilia paled further. Desperation set in. Samuel pleaded, I have a family, please reconsider. Cecilia, too, began to panic. I'll apologize. I'll take responsibility for my mistakes. I watched their frantic attempts and calmly offered a piece of advice. You should stop. It's embarrassing. Samuel shot me a glare. Shut up. What would someone like you know? I exhaled, unbothered. Samuel, you were the one who got me fired. This is just karma. Take responsibility for your own actions. His jaw clenched as he looked away. Cecilia bit her lip, struggling to hold back tears. Then, I turned to the president with a small smile. Would you like to hear more about their misconduct? Samuel and Cecilia panicked, shaking their heads frantically. I didn't need to say much more. The truth would catch up to them regardless. And so, their downfall was sealed. Later, I revealed more details, how Samuel faked business trips to spend time with Cecilia, and how they manipulated employees they didn't like into quitting by piling impossible workloads on them. The president was livid. Their final paycheck will be cut. I'll also investigate all past fraudulent claims. Samuel begged, his eyes brimming with tears. Please. I have a family to support. But it was too late. News of Samuel's affair spread, leading to his divorce. Cecilia, left without protection, found herself struggling as well. With their reputations destroyed, they couldn't find work in the tax industry. The community was too tight-knit, everyone knew what they had done. Desperate, they resorted to labor jobs just to survive. Cecilia, once so confident, now called me in tears. Alandra, please. I never even liked Samuel, I just wanted a better life. But her choices had led her here. You can't undo what you've done, I told her simply. She sobbed on the other end, but there was nothing more I could say. As for me, I turned my back on the corporate world. The president pleaded for me to return, but once I had been asked to resign, there was no going back. Instead, I chose a different path, helping at a friend's tax office and living life on my own terms. Maybe, someday, I'd open my own firm, a place where I could work without unnecessary power struggles. A new chapter had begun, and for the first time in a long while, I was excited for the future. My second life had just started. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Stay tuned.